what are like red flags you're seeing now with a lot of producer mixes?
A contract is not a contract. It should be an agreement.
I got $1,000 budget. Hook me up with a nice studio setup that will get me some.
If you're going to look at what, the media and the mainstream music scene is giving you, it's recycled to my ears.
All the producers want to know, man, run through the setup, run through the gear. Like, what is half of this shit right here? I know it's fire too, man.
It's honestly a little secret. It's a...
All right, welcome back to another episode of Straight Sauce. Today we have one of those producers, man, legendary. He's one of the producers that starts a wave. Don't even know he started a wave, but just starts a whole wave of just other producers, man. It's a whole community built around this one producer. We have Eastbound. How you doing, bro?
Man, thank you, man. Thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
Yes, Sirski. Yes, Sirski. If y'all don't know, man, Eastbound produced Travis Scott, Antidote, Young Thug, Freaky, Young Dolph. I mean, the list go on and on, bro. From drums to the mixes to the analog gear, man. We have a lot to talk about, bro. So, I don't know. Let's just start from the top. Just your background story and how you got started.
I grew up in the Netherlands in Europe, and I was always a music kid, and I played guitar a lot, and amongst different instruments. And I was just really inspired with rock music, Metallica, like Jimi Hendrix, you know what I mean? And when I moved to Canada, that's when I was kind of introduced to the more hip hop, R&B kind of vibe, you know what I mean? So when I started, I actually had an app on my phone called GarageBand on the iPhone 4S. I was just messing around. I was just making like little songs on it, and I was showing some of my friends, and they were telling me like, this is dope. You should try something with this. So I think it was Christmas time that I got like a laptop and downloaded FL Studio, and same thing. I was just messing around. YouTube didn't really have a lot of info out there, or Google. So I was just doing whatever was possible at the time and started messing around. And that's kind of what started it, and I wanted to make sure that I incorporated the rock, blues, and that kind of dark music into the urban type of hip hop music.
That's fire. So let's talk about after high school. I know you went to audio engineering school, so let's hear the background story as far as that.
Yeah, like in Canada, there's not that much outlets for audio engineering and music producing, like definitely not as much back then. And so there was really only like 2 or 3 schools that I could go to. So I ended up going to one called Metalworks, and it was dope at first, but I was just really inspired and just really just going in on the production. I was just making beats every single day. Sometimes skipping class making beats. So one day I just walked up in my mom's room, and I'm like, I want to drop out and I want to just do this, beat thing for real. And she was like, okay, cool, like no problem, but just make sure that you take your production serious. And I did.
So would you like advise producers to go to audio engineering school? You think YouTube University would get them straight?
I mean, it really depends, because like if you are looking to get a position where you need a certificate from that school, then yeah, right? Like if you want, like some people want to do like live audio engineering, like for performances and festivals, stuff like that, then yes. But if you want to be an engineer, like just cook up at the studio, artists coming through, it's all on YouTube. It's all on Google nowadays. Like you can pretty much find anything. You just need to know what to look for, because it's very oversaturated. But YouTube University for the win. I mean, I did it, and it taught me so much more than I learned in the first few months at audio engineering school. Obviously, though, like I wasn't really paying that much attention. I was very new to it, but nonetheless, I feel like I learned more off of YouTube. It's crazy to say, but it's true.
What aspect of like audio engineering do you actually like put into your beats? Like, I know they correspond together, but what exactly like are you doing that you put into like your workflow of making beats?
Definitely like that analog kind of flavoring. I like to use like Neeves and like plugins that kind of emulate that sound. And overall, like leveling and mastering and getting the right chains and having the bass sit nice. And like I like to have my beats sound like they're already mixed, like they don't really need anything else. So if the engineer would have then get it and start mixing on it, it wouldn't really be that much to work on. You know what I mean? It's kind of already done. And it also helps with the impression aspect of things, right? When you're in the studio and you click play and it sounds good already, you know, the impression that it gives to the artist is a lot better than, you know, like, oh, it's a dope beat, but it's going to be dope once it gets mixed. Like, I don't like that. I want it to be dope already.
Facts. So I'm gonna ask you a question. There's been a lot of talk in the community as far as like mixes and stuff like that. Like, what are like red flags you're seeing now with a lot of producer mixes, in 2022?
That's a good question. I would definitely say I feel like it's talked about, but the reason why maybe not as much. 808s in the wrong key. Like if your 808s are not in the wrong key, or not in the right key, sorry, you just get like it can throw off a whole beat. Like your beat can be dope, and as soon as that 808 comes in and it's just off key, it just throws it off all the way, and it's not melodic anymore. It's not in harmony. But there is some beats where an off 808 worked. Like I don't have any examples off the top of my head, but it definitely does work sometimes. And sometimes it adds like a cool thing, but that's rare. I feel like usually 808 that's in key with the song just works better. Um, Two, I would definitely say like the leveling. I feel like a lot of producers have the beats hitting the clippers super hard, which sounds like sometimes it helps the beat, it helps the workflow. But sometimes it could just be a bit too much. The snare is always your goal. Like if your snare is sitting nice, um, you have a good beat already. Like if your snare, like you know, sound selection and it matters so much in production these days. Just sometimes choosing the right sound can make a world of a difference, you know? So yeah, like gain staging, leveling, having the 808 in the right key, you know, really getting the melodies right, and just like the leveling, gain staging, and getting the master right too, without it distorting as much.
One of the things I've been kind of like thinking about as far as like me making beats is like, how loud should my beats actually be? And I know you're very big on like the limiter and having your beats really loud. So let's chop it up about that a little bit. Like, what's your perspective as far as mastering?
I feel like mastering is really misunderstood on a technical aspect because you don't really have to master your beats necessarily. You just want them to be at a competitive level, in a way where, you know, if someone like imagine yourself in a studio with multiple producers and someone plays a beat and it's banging, it's loud, it sounds good, the bass is sitting nice, and then you play your beat and mixing wise it's just not there. It's going to give the impression like your beat is not as dope, even though it may be just as good if the person were to just turn it up a little bit. So you want to be, you know, like in today's age, we measure loudness in LUFS, which stands for like loudness, units, factors, scale, something, I don't know. But it pretty much what it means is that like overall, your overall loudness needs to be at a certain level. And because of CDs that came out after vinyl, they've usually stuck around -8. Like that's kind of been the level for like 2 decades, give or take, right? So we've gotten used to that loudness, our ear, and kind of the distortion that that loudness gets. Like when you get to that loudness, you get a certain type of distortion that is pleasing to the ear. So I would aim for around -8, -7. That's kind of the number that you want to be at. Not because you want it to master, just because you want to be loud enough so that when you play it, it's at a decent volume. So there's no point in going in and trying to crank every last little bit of loudness out of it because you're usually going to sacrifice loudness for distortion.
Fire, bro. Fire. I ain't gonna lie. It'll be a lot of like, I'll be asking producers, like, what you think mastering is? It'll be so many explanations and stuff. But to hear from Eastbound, bro, it's like, it's stamped now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, mastering is literally the final stage that the song goes through, right? So if you have a song like that, in an ideal world, a mastering engineer doesn't really have to do anything. He just kind of makes it louder, a little bit of limiting, a little bit of EQ, and he's done, right? That's an ideal situation. Like, and there's no secret, there's no like magic thing that they have. Like, they definitely have good gear, but there's mastering engineers out there doing it all on in the box, right? So mastering in terms of a producer, that's not really something you need to. You just need to be loud enough so that it's loud enough to play. unless you're mixing someone's song or mastering someone's song. That's a whole different story, right? But mastering for producers, it's not really that big of it. It's not an issue kind of thing. You don't have to master your own beats.
You are FL, right? When you're coming
Yeah,
up.
FL in Studio One.
All right, so boom, check this out. You ever put 3 sound on your master, bro?
3? No.
I'm just fucking with you. Nah, but I know a dude that put like 3 soft clippers on his master, but it worked though. I just be like, all right, like it beats be him, so I just be like, all right, that's you.
If it sounds good, it's good. I have my own like some like certain chains that I have where it's like 5 of the same plugins or 6 or 8 of the same plugins in a row. Um, and if it works, it works. It's like, what can you say, right? Like I actually seen someone that put Soundgoodizer on their master. I forgot who it was, but beat was fire. Like I didn't, and as soon as I bypassed the plugin, it wasn't there no more. I'm like, okay, well in this scenario, Soundgoodizer worked. Like you can't hate if it sounds good. You know what I mean?
So you in Toronto, kind of walk us through your first placement, like the process.
I guess my first noteworthy placement would be Young Thug Freaky. That was me and Wonder Girl produced that, and it was it was really eye opening because it was one of those moments where I realized like I knew I had something, right? Like I felt like my beats were good, but that really gave me kind of the affirmation, like the stamp, right? Like yes, it is good. People like it because if Young Thug goes on it, then must be good enough, right? So
How did the placement come about?
funny enough, I'm not like me and Wonder Girl made the beat. She made majority of it though, and I'm sure she must have played it for him, and he wanted it at some point. I don't really remember the story of how it actually went about, but I do remember that it got leaked, and that's when he didn't want to drop it the same way anymore. So it kind of just became one of those YouTube things, right, where it's out, but it's not on DSPs, I guess. But nonetheless, just the fact that a big time artist went on the beat made me feel very motivated and inspired.
So let me ask you this: how did people kind of like first react to your sound? Because I know at the time before, like you had popped off with the Travis Scott, the Antidote placement, like the sound wasn't really like known that much. You feel me? So like, what was like artists' first reaction to those drums? Just a different way of you making beats.
I feel like I got a lot of I got a lot of reactions of people being like, "This is different. Like this is I haven't really kind of heard this before. This gives me dark, cinematic type of energy." And I usually like the reactions. Like I really enjoy seeing people's reactions and kind of getting the affirmation that people think it sounds good. Because at the time, I was just trying things. You know what I mean? I had no I wasn't making beats for Drake or for I was just making beats because I wanted to like them myself. So I wasn't in a place where I was limiting myself to my creative ideas. I was just doing whatever I felt sounded good, and people liked it, and especially with bass because like I'm a lover for bass, and people noticed that very quickly. They were like, I like how the bass sounds in it, and that mattered to me a lot.
I'm kind of in the mode like now, like me making samples, especially me picking up analog gear. This shit, that's a big thing that I kind of got into, just trying to experiment. You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of talk in the community where people like, man, music is the same, and there's nothing really going on new right now. All the albums are trash and woo woo. Like, just honest opinion, like, how do you feel about music so far? Like, we're talking 2020 and up to now. Like, how you feel?
I agree. I think that music is in a place where a lot of it is, I mean, feels recycled, right? It feels like we're kind of hearing the same things, just at a different tempo, maybe a few keys up or down. Um, because I feel like a lot of people aren't really, not even people, sorry, labels, aren't really going the extra mile and saying, let's try something different. Like, let's take a bet on this guy. Like, he's different, but let's see how it works out. I feel like they kind of play it safe, and they kind of they kind of stay on that route where they know it's going to sell and make money, right? Because let's face it, I mean, the music is it's all about money at the end of the day. So if it's selling, they're going to keep on putting it for sale, right? Like the new stuff sometimes doesn't work, and that's the risk you take, right? It may not work. So labels are usually not really willing to take that risk. So it becomes so I usually find that that different stuff comes out by independent artists. So you gotta have to dig a little more. But I've been finding a lot of new good music myself. But like I said, I had to do some digging. You have to kind of like browse around and look and just see what's out there. If you're gonna look at what the media and the mainstream music scene is giving you, it's redundant. It's recycled to my ears.
Facts, though. I ain't gonna lie. I got this playlist. It's like Japanese. I don't even know, like Japanese, like
Japanese know
soul.
what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, that joint kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I be wanting to sample it, but I don't know if I wanna, go through all that for real. Yeah.
Maybe they won't even know about it, man. Who knows?
If you flip it, but yeah, let's say the song. Let's use this song for example. ABCs. Everybody know the ABCs, right? But let's say you flip the hell out of it, where it's like you couldn't even. I'm talking about there was no possible way you even if the person that made the song ABCs listen to that flip, they're like, damn, I ain't. This don't sound nothing like it. You think you'll put them on a split, man?
No. Like I feel like it depends. It really depends. If it's like, look, if it's your homie, he sent you a sample and you flip it in a way that you can't tell it no more, I would still give homie the cut. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like that just feels right. But if you take a sample from like Nintendo and in the producer community, they know like Nintendo doesn't play games when it comes to sampling their stuff. Like they will red flag it immediately. So if you take a Drake song or like a really big song that's generating numbers and you can't just get cleared like that, if you flip that in a way where you can't tell no more, you can't tell, right? It's like, I mean, what is original, right? Like I didn't invent laptops. I didn't invent synths, right? So we're all using things based on different people's creations. So um I guess you have to kind of go with your gut and feel like and think about yourself like what feels right here, like if like I said, if it's the homie, give him the cut. But if it's like a big ass song like Michael Jackson and you flipped it and you really can't tell, it's like it's night and day, like there's no way you can tell, you pretty much used that song as a synth or like an instrument in a way where you can't tell no more. So why put yourself through that hassle of doing the right thing and giving them the cut?
Have you ever ran into like sample problems as far as like
Oh
records
yeah.
and stuff?
When I first started, the whole sample thing wasn't at all like what it is now. Like that wasn't a thing you were doing. Like if you told someone back then, "Oh, I make samples for a living," they're like, "Samples like what? Like food? Like food samples?" Like they wouldn't get it. You know what I mean? So when I first started out, I was sampling everything and anything. I didn't really know about rights and about copyright and about I didn't know about none of that. I just used whatever was available and did it anyways. But then very soon you start to realize like, okay, well you need to pay them too. And I'm like, oh, well that changes things, you know. So but then like slowly but surely, like I had certain people reach out like, hey, like I made a sample, and then I was like, yo, this is dope. People are sending me samples to work on that they made, so if I want to clear it, I just reach out to them. That's genius. I thought back then I was like, that's genius. So but even in that world, I started to run into problems because it's my first time engaging in that kind of business and I have no idea how that goes. Like, do I pay you? When do I pay you? How do I pay you? Are we gonna just collab? Like how do the splits even work? Because I hear publishing and masters and royalties. It's a maze, right? It's very confusing, especially if you're young and you're just having fun with your friends making music. Like you're not gonna pay attention when people say publishing or masters or this or that. So, you can run into all kinds of issues like you didn't know who made the sample, you forgot who made the sample, or like you didn't clear it, or like not in the way that they expected you to because this is just your first time going about it. So there's a lot of different situations that you can run into like that.
One thing I could say is I'm gonna use Fruity Slicer. It's like every month I find one thing new in Fruity Slicer, and it's like, and the Fruity Slicer don't have but so many options, but I be sitting there like, damn, I ain't know you could do that, bro.
Yeah.
I ain't
No,
even count.
bro, Fruity is actually a lot more in depth than a lot of people think. Like a lot of people just kind of do the regular, like they put in the drums. Like Fruity, like you can get pretty in depth with Fruity. Like Fruity is really, you can do a lot with it.
I'm starting to like kind of play with Fruity Slice X because like I seen this video on Instagram. It was like 2 weeks ago. Busy Works Beats posted it, and he I guess in Slice X you could take like a regular chop like you was chopping in a Fruity Slicer, but then like you could change the pattern and put another sample and chop it both at the same time. So like if you was to hit C, it would play both of the chops, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
I didn't see
I
like
didn't
you
even know
probably
that.
knew. Yeah, like I ain't know that. I seen the Instagram video. I was like,
I didn't
what?
know that.
Yeah, you
Because
feel
like I
me?
knew about Slice X, but honestly it just always looked very intimidating. So I never put myself through the paces of like learning it. And Free Slicer was just so like straightforward that I was like, I'm just using that, you know. But honestly, I haven't used it in years, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Like I nowadays like I slice by hand. Like I will literally cut the audio and do whatever I need to do just by hand. I feel like I just have a bit more control.
So that goes into my next question. Like, kind of walk us through like your day to day process.
I'm really fast nowadays. Like I like to knock out ideas quickly. I just like to have the idea and make it happen. I don't like to think too much. And does this sound good? Is this snare better than this one? I definitely start off with the melody. So I have like a sample or I make my own sample and just have that going. And I like to really perfect that before I start adding anything else because that's really the foundation of the beat or the song. So and then sound selection. So that's where I get very particular. I really make sure I choose the right sounds because even this one time I made a beat and it was good, but it wasn't there yet. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what is it missing? And I was adding things. And I'm like, no, that's not it. I was removing things. I'm like, no, now it's losing everything. And what I did is I changed the hi-hat with literally just a different hi-hat. And it was like, that's it. You know what I mean? So sometimes picking the right kick, snare, hi-hat has such a big impact on the overall feel of the beat. So that's where I spend, I guess, most of my time. And, you know, nowadays I kind of know my levels. I know where I want to be at. I just usually leave myself enough room so that I have like 60 B to play with. I don't really like, I have my kick at minus 12. Like, I don't really pay too much attention to that. There's nothing wrong, but I don't do that. I just make sure that I have enough room so I can play around with things, turn things up and down without things clipping. And then as I go, I would add plugins and mix it in a little bit, parallel compression, EQ, set up the mix bus and stuff. And then I'm perfecting. Then I get like just sometimes shifting the hi-hats a little bit or taking out that one snare over there or shifting the kick or whatever it may be, very small things that add character and personality and kind of like a human element to the beat because that's very important. Like because digital is perfect and our ears don't like perfect. So if you have your hi-hat perfectly on the line every time and you're kicking your snare, it just sounds a little bland because there's nothing special going on, right? If you hear someone play the guitar, it's going to be different every single time.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. You were talking just then. I was getting mad at hell because like you don't understand. Like 3, 4 years ago when I was making beats, bro, I used to rip the Eastbound SoundCloud beat, put it as a reference in FL, and they play my beat and be like, damn, what the fuck is he doing? And then fast forward now, bro, you explaining this shit. It's like, bro, if I just knew it, if I was able to just do an interview then back then and just say, hey, what are you doing, bro? Help me
Hey
out a
man,
little bit, bro. You feel
everything
me?
at the right time, man. Everything at the right time.
I feel you. So, to switch it up a little bit, are you play any instruments? Are you a musician?
Yeah, so I started off playing guitar, um, piano, drums, bass. I was playing in church, you know, with my dad, funny enough, and so I kind of got my hands around all instruments, but guitar and piano are definitely my two main instruments.
Do you feel like music theory is something important to still learn now, or it's like, nah?
Yeah, yes and no. It's like yes, because I feel like it gives you an edge. It gives you more understanding of what it is that you're actually doing, you know, and you know, it's like if you are a painter and you're just painting, like I'm sure you can just make something abstract and creative. But if you know about your, you know, your colors and your canvas and everything, you become better. So as if you learn music theory, you will know like, oh, this is in C minor. Maybe it's going to be better in like B flat or A flat or whatever. I'm just saying something, right? But so that can help. And also, if you can play instruments that will make it easier for you to make melodies, and you will have to rely less on finding samples or having something else do it for you.
Because I'm a
Yeah.
person that I just click in, but I want to start like playing a piano. I do have a guitar. I use that shit like one time. I got a recorder flute. You know, you don't have to go too crazy on that. But like a
Yeah.
producer that wants to learn music theory, like how should they start? Like where should they go?
Ooh, good question. I would say go to your local music store and just play around with all the instruments that they have. Like link up the homies, do your thing, go to a music store and just have some fun. Just play around with all kinds of instruments and see which one you physically connect with. Because I remember I actually started off playing violin because my mom put me in violin class. But I, for some reason, my body naturally wanted to hold the violin like a guitar. I don't know why. It just felt better. And that's when, my grandma ended up buying me a guitar. So it was one of those things where my body connected with the instrument in a certain way. So just being inspired by an instrument is one thing, right? If you see someone play piano, it could be like, wow, that's cool. But then you do it yourself and you're like, no, this is not it. So go to a music store and just play around with all kinds of instruments and see which one your body and your soul like literally connects with. And play around, don't, like, I wouldn't immediately go and take lessons, and I wouldn't immediately go and look up on YouTube how to play this, how to play that, because even when I started out, and obviously I'm being biased there because I started out just doing it all by ear. I wasn't being taught. I had a teacher for a little bit, but I didn't like it because he had me reading music from the paper. I just didn't like it, so I was just messing around. I was just seeing what I liked and what sounded good and just messing around. And eventually, if you do it enough, the messing around turns into, something good and something that you actually like. So, and once you're at a stage where you feel like, okay, I know what I like, I know what I'm hearing, I now need to work on my technique. I would then go and find lessons or a tutor. I would maybe stray away from YouTube there a little bit. I feel like in-person lessons with a person that actually knows how to play the instrument well will greatly benefit you, because they can tell you certain little things that YouTube may not tell you, right? They can give you live feedback on, like, hey, don't hold your hand like that. This is why you can't hit that chord, because you're holding your hand like that, right? So and then from there you just keep going, don't skip on your lessons, and just keep practicing. But you got to have to get your 10,000 hours in, right? Anything you want to master, you need to give it 10,000 hours and you will be significantly better. If you do something every day for at least like 20 minutes, in a week's time, you're going to improve so much, right? So you just got to have to stay consistent with it.
I ain't even gonna cap, bro. I played the clarinet for 4 years, man.
Are you serious?
Did that. I'm cutting that part out, but yeah.
You
Yeah.
played that for real?
Yeah, I was 5. I was just like, I was kind of a troublemaker in school, so I got kicked out of band. But clarinet, I played 5th grade all the way to 8th, and it was like 25 chairs. I was no less than 5. Like,
Bro,
no
you gotta
less
put
than
that in your
5.
beats, man. Stop playing. You gotta put that in your beats.
Nah, bro. Nah. I got a whole bunch of flutes though. I'm pretty fine with them joints though. I ain't even
That's
gonna
dope. That's dope.
All right, so let's switch it up a little bit. I got this picture. I'm on your Instagram page. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen real quick. Cruising through your Instagram page, and I see this right here. And if you look at my studio kind of fab. Just like sometimes, like when you have like you like, damn, I got a 5 little studio. You feel me? Then you look at somebody else, you like, shit. That's how I felt when I clicked on this picture, bro. And then I seen you posted this recently. So I mean, all the producers want to know, man. Run through the setup, run through the gear. Like, what is half of this shit right here? I know it's fire too, bro.
So, I mean, this is, I guess, like, in the engineering world, you would call this analog summing kind of setup. So it's majority of the processing is happening on the computer, but I'm sending everything out through the converter, which is the Apollo X16, to the Rupert Neve 5059. I don't know if they can read it, but it's that blue one below the Universal Audio thing.
Okay.
Like the one that looks like a Christmas tree or something. So that one, that's a summing mixer. So what I do is I run my melody to channel 1 and 2, my drums 3 and 4, my drum parallel at 5 and 6, and my bass to 7 and 8, and I leave the whole bottom row, so 9 until 16, for my vocals if I'm doing mixing. And that's directly patched into the API 550. sorry, 5500, and that's directly patched into the Rupert Neve, like the portico on the bottom. And then that is sent back to the Apollo. So it's like a round trip. So it's being sent out from the Apollo into the summing, some to two channels, going into the EQ, going into the compressor limiter, and then it goes back into the converter, and then back to my computer. So and then the Shelford is like one of my, like, you know, I love it obviously, but it's one of those like rare pieces that I feel is special for everything that it does, like the EQ, the mic, the compressor, the saturation, just everything about it I love. So sometimes I use it in the mix. I would hard patch it into channel 9 or 8, which means that it's literally directly patched on the summing mixer. So like, I mean, if you were to Google it or YouTube it, you can see like how the summing mixer works. But I pretty much use analog as plugins. So like I have it, like I can click it in and then it's running through it. So I can use it as a plugin in a way. So usually I would run my vocal, my kick, my 808 through it. And then the Clark I don't have anymore. I actually sold it. But that's just a chorus unit. It's literally like chorus, just like how the plugin would do it, but just a bit wider and more analog sounding, I guess. And then those little things to the left, TC 1210 and so the TC 1210 is honestly a little secret. It's a psychoacoustic stereo enhancer. That's a mouthful, but yeah, it's a stereo. Yeah, like I just said it. But so pretty much it uses a bunch of different techniques, LFO, the Haas effect, all kinds of things to create this like really wide stereo sound that's still mono compatible. So it's very wide in stereo, but when you play it on like a Bluetooth speaker, it's still gonna keep it intact. Because sometimes when you add stereo widening plugins, it starts to mess it up when you play it in mono. And the TC 2210, I believe, it's just a delay, but it sounds really good. And I use the Genelex. I love my Genelex. And I got the Apollo with an octa-core processor. Like the satellite is octa-core, so it's just more CPU power, right? Because Universal Audio has its own chips where they run their plugins on. So the plugins from UAD are not run on your computer; they run on there. So I have the octa-core processor and the Apollo, and the Apollo is then connected to a headphone amplifier for my headphones because they need power, and it's just a bit cleaner. So but that's kind of the setup. So it's I would call it it's more of a hybrid setup. It's not like analog because like majority of it happens in the box, and then I send it out just to get a bit of that like analog flavor, if you will.
Damn, bro. I feel like I just went through a whole course. I feel like I went through mixing, analog gear, enlightenment, bro. I ain't even gonna count.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it makes sense. It's definitely a lot of technical stuff. Like I feel like a lot of people would have questions like how do you connect it and all that kind of stuff. But it's it's pretty straightforward. But it's one of those things that like over time when you look into analog, it will start making sense.
I ain't even gonna lie, bro. You got these little legendary videos right here. This actually made me and my friend Chaotic buy this TC 1210 right here, but let me see if I can find it, bro. And I think it's a part. Yeah, it's this one right here. Is this part? Shout out to Frequency, bro. Frequency, you the GOAT. It's part 1, and there's a part 2 where you like break down your mixing process. Producers, I advise you watch both of those parts, bro. He breaks down all his sauce techniques, basically all this in a little bit of detail. Right. You feel me? So definitely check that out. I'm gonna put you in a scenario though, bro. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't have no studio, and I got $1,000 budget. Hook me up with a nice studio setup that will get me somewhere.
As a producer, okay. So as a producer, the most important thing obviously is your laptop, but I'm gonna assume that you already would have that, right?
Yeah,
you got a laptop, but now you need everything else. So the first thing you would need is an interface, headphones, and speakers. So as an interface, you know, if you want to just start out, you have a low budget, you're gonna have to obviously make some sacrifices there, but I mean, I think the Scarlett is kind of just a no-brainer, right? Like just the baseline lowest tier Scarlett, which is like I think like 100 something bucks, right? Because it's not necessarily bad quality in terms of the speakers. So just the fact that you can have it playing and you have a headphone jack there too, that's good. In terms of headphones, it gets tricky. So it depends. I would definitely say that's where you want to spend some, because like I'm gonna assume you also don't have any treatment in the room, right? Which matters a lot too. So if you have any treatment, your headphones are gonna start mattering a lot more now. So Bayer Dynamic makes some good ones. Can you yeah, so Bayer Dynamic, yeah, the 770s are nice.
Boom.
Yeah, 770s are nice. Um yeah, so those are nice. Also the Sennheiser HD 250.
Oh, I know which ones you're talking about. Yeah, no fire. Chill out.
Yeah.
You giving out too much sauce, bro. Chill out. Chill out.
That's a secret one. People are sleeping on that one. That's a secret one. And obviously the Audio Technica MX 80 or 50. You know which one I'm talking about. The Audio
Mm-hmm.
Technica.
I
That
got. I
one
heard
is
I got the 40s.
and everyone knows about that one. But like I said, like speakers matters a lot too, because you want to get a good vibe going. So um in all honesty, I am not that up to speed these days with like the lower tier budget speakers. I'm sure there's so many out there right now. I started off with KRKs and
Mm-hmm.
they did well. Focal is really good as well. The Focal Alphas are very good.
Facts.
So yeah, like I would go for something like that. And at that point, you already have a good setup. And if you have some money left, even better, go get yourself some panels. And if you want to be, as a producer, I'm assuming you're going to be making bass heavy music. You need panels that are at least 3 inches thick, fiberglass, if you can. So fiberglass, 3 inches thick, because if you get panels that are like thin, they will help for the high frequencies, mid frequencies maybe, but the low frequencies, they don't do anything at all. So you need to get panels that are at least 3 inches thick, so they actually help with the low end.
All right, bro. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you. Thank you for tapping in the interview. We got all the sauce we needed, man. I'm finna kick it, bro. I see you later, gang. I'll just play. Nah, but producer, there you go, man. We ain't even like, we 40 minutes in, and Eastbound already broke down his mixing gems. He broke down the analog equipment, budget equipment. Just gonna come in here and just leak all the sauce like this, bro. You don't even care, bro.
Sorry, man.
So I got an X, man. Travis Scott Antidote, man. That was a huge record. I feel like that record right there just started a whole wave of just a producer community. So looking back, it's been a while since it dropped. Like, how do you feel the impact of that record was, bro?
It was unexpected, honestly. It was one of those things where while I was making the beat, I wasn't expecting it to be anything big or special, or it was honestly just another beat. And even when Travis took it, he dropped it on SoundCloud first. It wasn't really like an official release until after it started to gain attention. But it opened a lot of doors for me, and it was a very motivating time in my life, because it was mind blowing, right? It's like I actually went to OVO Fest and seen him perform it live with Kanye on stage, and I'm standing there in the crowd, just like in awe. Like it was really a moment, because you realize like I did it, like I've made it happen. Came from like a little town in Holland, and now Kanye and Travis are performing a song to a beat that I made. So it really gave me a lot of motivation, and I still think back to that moment when I feel down or low, or I have days where my creative tank is kind of empty.
So, like, what are like some red flags for younger producers? 'Cause that's a lot of things we see now. A lot of producers calling people out. A lot of producers saying, "Hey, they young. They don't really know the business like that." You know what I'm saying? Especially,
Yeah, no, and I completely resonate with it, because I didn't either. A contract is not a contract. It should be an agreement. That's the most important thing. If you are signing something, you need to know what it is that you're signing. A major red flag is someone says like, "Hey man, I got a lawyer. He's gonna draft up the agreement for us, and then I'll give it to you, and I'll get my lawyer to look it over for you." Big red flag. Like, no, you get your own lawyer, retain your own lawyer, make sure that he's looking over the contract and know that everything is in there. And, up until the point that the contract turns into an agreement, right? Because like you want to be in agreement of what it is that you're signing. And keep track of who and what samples you use, because you don't want to because it's happened to me before where I used someone's sample and completely like I didn't put it in the title. I was in a rush. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Like I used someone's sample on this, right? And ever since then, I made sure that I always put it in the title, make sure that I know who it is. And on the business side, don't just agree to things. Like know that you have rights and you have things that you can enforce. So like if someone says like, hey, is it cool if I drop it? It's like, well, what do you mean? Is it cool? Like, are you gonna pay me for my beat, or are you gonna, what's happening here? So yeah, just like, but doing your business right matters a lot.
Facts, man. Palace was saying red flags. He was like, if a manager or something, then every time he calls you, you make sure it's about business. That's a red flag. Like Palace was definitely like pointing out all the red flags in business, man. I'm just
It's
starting to see.
it's true. It's true. It should be a good working relationship. Like if you go to the studio with someone and the first thing they want to do is start cooking up, you haven't even talked about how your day was. Not like personally, that's just not my vibe. I like to actually connect with the person, and it doesn't have to be all bromance and all tight knit and everything, but at least a general understanding of like what kind of person it is that you're dealing with, because sometimes just paying attention to that can also alleviate the potential issue of running into bad business.
Facts, man. This is a book. A lot of people be like, bro, I'm getting tired of y'all talking about this book, bro. It's a book. It's like
Everything you need to know about the music industry.
yes, that book right there, bro.
Yeah,
Like, read it, bro. That's all. Just read it. That's all it
it's
takes.
all there. It's all there. And like, funny enough, I feel like they purposely made the music industry confusing, because it's like a song has 200% in publishing and masters and royalties, and you have to sign up with companies to collect it. It's a lot. Like, I don't blame people for not understanding it. I really don't, because sometimes sometimes I still hear new terms and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, because it's a lot to take in.
We've been having this talk for years about producer union and all this type of stuff, but it's like, bro, me personally, like I feel like there's no way we could sit here as one together and go to these labels and artists and be like, bro, we demand more respect, right? Like, hear me out. We can't do that whole time. The union, like a community as ourselves, we steady like playing each other. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how does it work like that? You know what I'm saying? That's like me and you. Goddamn, our goal. We want to make a beat, but we steady arguing about the kick the whole time. Like, that's not. It's a bigger goal. I feel like that's one thing. Like, we want this producer union, but bro, it's like we got to get right as a community first before we can even go to these other guys, bro. This label,
I
I think of it
agree.
like this. This industry ain't nothing but a legal. It's literally a legal system to scam people, bro. That's what labels is, bro. That's how I think of it. No cap.
I think of labels as um, lines of credit that you have to pay back through musical compositions, right? Because they want to own you. Like, it definitely depends on what level of label we're talking, right? But um, it's just a bank. They give you a loan in advance, right? Which, funny enough, if you get a loan at a bank, you probably get a lower interest rate. It's kind of just one of those things. If you get your credit right, you don't need a label. Get your credit right and take out a loan yourself. Invest in your music, and if you really believe in it, recoup yourself, right? But if you have to recoup to the label, man, you're going to be stuck, because they're going to tell you, no, we don't want you to release this because this doesn't really fall in line with this. Also, you don't know where you fall in line in terms of the priority list on the label. It's like, bro, I'm signed to The Weeknd. Okay, but are you priority? Because he has Nav, he has, but like, I'm just saying something, right? But I'm just like, no matter who you sign to, especially the bigger companies, they're going to have different priorities, right? So you want to know where you stand. And I don't think anyone prioritizes you more than you. So going independent is always the best thing, up until the point that you make so much money off of your independent stuff that you may as well holler at a label, be like, yo, listen, I'm making 200 grand every quarter. You guys want in or what? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, sure. And now the whole position, like the power play is different, because now you are in a position of power where you can come to a label and be like, listen, I'm making money with or without you guys. So with you guys, I could make so much more money that we can all eat. Do you guys want in? Yes or no? And they're definitely going to say yes. But if you come into a label like, hey, I'm a producer, I'm doing my thing out here, I have some cool things in the pipeline, I'm looking to do this and X, Y, and Z, they're going to be like, yeah, we'll give you an advance, but we're going to have to see it work first, right? Because now they're putting the resources up rather than them contributing to yours. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Facts. So
Yeah.
last question on the business side. What are like red flags in a producer relationship that you should be aware of? Specifically like, like sample makers working with bigger producers or like producers signing to other producers. Like what are red flags in that relationship you should be cautious of?
In all honesty, I feel like red flags is one of those things that, there's a lot of them. And sometimes you have to kind of gauge it based on your social meter. You know what I mean? But I feel that I like avoiding them completely. Like that's how I like to go about it. So rather than, oh, that's a red flag, I would rather avoid the possibility of a red flag even existing. So one way to go about it, for example, is one point where producers usually, where the fire starts to happen is when they're talking about splits, right? That's always a very sensitive conversation because you, in your head, you think this song could make millions. And what if it does make millions? Now I'm saying no to X amount of money, right? Which is very true. Sometimes the 1% of a difference could mean like $200,000, depending on how big the song is. So when you're with this producer, like on the side, have a conversation about like, how do you feel about splits? Like, how do you usually like to go about it? Are you one of those guys, like if you're in a room, you're getting a split? If it's like, do I have to contribute? How are we going to go about this? If you set that conversation before you even get to cooking, it's probably better because in that scenario, you already know what you're going into. I feel like another red flag is when people people make it a thing where it's like you make a beat and then they feel like it's theirs, or it's like when you're collaborating with another producer, it's both of you guys. Like you guys both created something, right? It's like a kid. It's like yeah, it's like I'm her dad, but like she's also her mom. It's like it's a full collaboration on every aspect. So you got to keep that in mind on the business side too, right? Where you have like, yo, listen, I got my artist, he wants to hop on it, and he's like, yeah, well, I have my artist that wants to hop on it. So who's gonna hop on it? Well, how much is your artist paying? $500. Well, mine is paying 1,000. At that point, you're gonna have to, you know,
Basically, you just got to be aware. You got to
be
control your
aware
situation
and
and be
talk
aware.
talk things out. Have the uncomfortable conversations from the start and go about it respectfully. Like, hey man, look, I like to go about it like this. I like to split everything 50-50. If you're in a room, you're getting a cut, period. Okay, cool. Well, that's not how I like to work. I'm like, okay, well, how do you like to work? Well, for me, you have to put an effort. If you're on the beat, then you're on the beat. If you're not, you're not. Cool. You have to respect that, right? Some people just have different views on it. You have to respect that. So if that's the case and you don't connect with that, then hey man, listen, I don't like that kind of vibe. So let's cook up in, whenever the time is right. But for now, it is what it is. We differ on perspective on how we like to do business. So it is what it is.
Hey man, listen man, it's a course right here. I'm not even dropping the interview for free no more. I'm charging $5.
Gonna charge them.
Nah. All right, man. So let's talk about hidden talents, bro. You're a whole artist out here, man. Let's talk about it. Like, what's up with it?
Oh man. Yeah, like I mean, I've been dropping my music, like solo music, for a while now on SoundCloud, because I felt like I made certain beats that were not tailored to an artist, but more like it was kind of more its own thing. And I've been dropping it and organically got like, upwards of 10 million views. So so did well. So I'm very excited because I'm actually dropping an album soon called Navigate, and it's going to include majority of those songs and some new exclusives as well. So
Man, producer tapes are so underrated, and I'm talking about. We're not even talking about. First off, producer tapes itself is underrated. I'm talking about like, let's say like Metro 19 and Booming, underrated. You know what I'm saying? When you have other artists hop on, when you have a actual project, when the producer made the beat, wrote it, and performed it, bro, like, ooh, it'll be fine, bro. I already know.
it's different because like, you know what it is? I feel like when it goes the normal process, right? Producer sends it to an artist links up with the engineer, the label handles that side. It becomes such a factory, like when it's producers doing it, it's like every aspect of it they control and they are involved in. So you just get a more emotional connection to the music, in my opinion.
I feel like it's a relief too. Like, imagine being in an industry where it's like you're kind of limited. Like, you can't go to this artist Not unless you have like this crazy relationship, but even then, you can't just go to an artist and be like, "Hey, bro, all these trap beats, no, I got this whole unicorn type beat I want you to hop on." They might not be open to it, you feel me? But you really want to get it out, you feel me? So like you got a
True,
project is a
true, yeah,
relief to
true.
be experimental, be creative, you feel me? So I
Yeah,
definitely like, yeah, we gotta check that out, man.
but sometimes you got to make him believe by just doing it,
Yeah, that too.
you know?
All right, I'm gonna put you in a scenario. This some weird shit. Put out a project, right? And then Drake call you, "Hey, bro, I'm trying to buy that record. You trying to sell it to me? What you doing?"
I would say yes.
Right? You said that shit so calm. You was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah."
Yeah, I would say yes because you know what it is. Like, let's be honest, Drake is the biggest artist in the world. So if he wanted the beat, you know, that would be a huge boost in your career just by that happening already. Um, it depends though. Like if it's just like I don't know, like it depends on your motives. Like me personally, I love music, but I also love being happy and being content with my personal life as well. Um, and on Earth, you need money for that, so that matters a lot, right? Just the financial situation. So you releasing a song independent versus Drake taking it, it's just a no brainer. It's going to make way more money. So if doesn't mean you're money motivated, but it could help you a lot, right? So that can matter. But if you're one of those people where it's like, no man, that's my stuff, that's my music. No one gets it. I don't care if you're Michael Jackson, you're not getting it. Okay.
Okay, so last question. This one I'm gonna ask. I see a lot of producers now. It's not because the traditional way to build your brand as a producer is like, okay, we got to get placements. But I see a lot of producers now build their brand through like them as a producer, the producer community, like producer content or like posting these crazy remixes or like these crazy beat battle beats and stuff like that. So a producer that wants to go more in that route, even to the where they're putting out their own music, like what's some tips or like some last words you could give a producer that wants to take that
Man,
path?
just be 100% unapologetically yourself because you'll never have to reinvent that. And I know that's a bit of a vague answer there, I guess, right? But it's true. You need to just be you and just how you are and all the quirks and imperfections about it. Just put it out, and it's one of the reasons why I really look up to Kanye because he's so himself and he is free from judgment. Like he doesn't care about making mistakes. He doesn't care about learning from his mistakes either, right? So starting out, definitely, you need to kind of get your mind out of the what's hot right now and just make music, make something that's unique to you. Because if you liked it, chances are another 50 million people are also going to like it, right? You just have to find that audience and slowly build it up. So you definitely need to be active and post, but I'll do that while being yourself. Don't try to create this persona. Um, and if you create this persona, make that a amplification of you. Don't make it a different thing and it's all by itself, right? You want it to be you because um, I just feel like it would be better if people liked you for you and liked your music because of the personality behind it. And the reason why I said get your mind out of the what's hot right now, because you need to make something that's unique. Because if you're gonna just make what everyone else is making, then like why not watch, a podcast of another famous producer, you know? Like no, make your own thing so that like you can't get that thing anywhere else but there.
I had someone say, "Hey, how can I be different? Like drop a tutorial on how to make your own sound." I'm like, "What? There's no formula, bro. You just,
There's
you know
no
what I'm saying?"
tutorial for that though. It's like the tutorial. If you make a tutorial on how to be different, it's already you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
you know what I'm
It's like
saying?
I'm giving the same advice to billions of people, and now it's like they're all being different. It's like no, like being different is like not even being like different. It's like just be you, be authentically yourself, because we're all different. We all have similarities, but we're all different. So you just gotta be yourself. Like if it's a YouTube video about how to be authentic, it would be a video of someone talking about like, hey man, like stop trying to be other people.
There you go, man. I apologize in advance to everybody, bro, because I had to pay, $100 for this course. I was just bullshitting. Man, well, appreciate you for having you, man. Everybody, make
No,
sure
I
y'all like
appreciate
this
you, man.
video,
Thank you for
comment
having
this
me.
video up, and also make sure y'all go check out Eastbound's album, man. You know that shit about to be 10 out of 10, 5, 5, 5, 5, fire, you feel me? So it's a wrap.
I appreciate that, man.